You're live with another episode of Happy Valentine's Day with the Love Doctor. How are you this evening?
The Love Doctor. I am good. Good.
Love Doctor Christian, do you have a message of love for the people today?
Oh, a message. So, in preparation for today, I was in the shower, and that's where I do most of my good thinking.
Shower power, yep.
Yeah. And I thought, I wonder if Mel's going to ask me a question that's, going to be like, what's your message? Um, and the thing that came to mind was, you've never not been loved. And I think that would be my message, that regardless of what you've gone through in your life, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, all of it, that you've never not been loved.
Christian, I feel like that entry was like I was taking the piss out of like Valentine's Day, but you've just gone straight to my heartstrings, and now I'm all like, oh God. And I think I just want to, when Christian says you have never been not loved, he's not talking to me. He's talking to you listening to the podcast. And you know
All of
what
us.
else, Christian?
What?
I actually think that was something you said to me in the first time that you and I met when we were doing surrogacy together.
Did I say that?
Something along those lines.
Oh, do you know what? I, yeah, you're right.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, actually,
And it sent me
I did
sideways.
say that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
Got a few good ones.
So, welcome to the podcast, Christian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now we can jump back into our serious note. Christian and I have known each other for a while. Do I tell the story? Do I tell the story of how we met? I kind of like it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Christian and I had been in the online space together. I knew who he was. I have no idea. I've never asked you. Did you know who I was? You can
Uh,
say no.
all all I knew was you were in Adelaide, which
Yeah,
was
okay.
my old hometown. That's it.
So all I knew is that you were from Adelaide. And at that time, I was like, I really want more community in Adelaide. Now, you and I were at an event in Sydney and I saw you there and I was like, I need to speak to that man. But there was, I don't know, 80 people at this event and you and I were sitting at opposite ends of the room. And we know these events get pretty heavy, hot and heavy very quickly. We're just going to leave the imagination flowing for everyone listening. Um, and I know that it got to the end of the day, and I was like, I need to get the fuck out of this room, and just hightailed it out of there as soon as we could. And then the next day, by the time I came back down, it was straight into the work, and I was having all these like heart opening moments. I'd forgotten about you at this point. And then John, closed that portion of the event and said, you have to find someone in the room that best resembles the person that you've just been working on. And I was like, holy shit, it's Christian. And I was like, isn't it funny that I walked into this event, I had basically earmarked you and I was like, fuck, I need to talk to that man. And then 24 hours later, I'm approaching you to play the surrogacy in my breakthrough weekend. And what role did you play, Christian?
I was your father.
My daddy.
That's it.
So I had to go up to Christian. I'd never spoken to this man before in real life. And I was like, Christian, do you mind playing my dad?
And I didn't hesitate. I was like,
You didn't.
sure,
You didn't.
let's go for it.
So Christian and I got to share this really deeply, deeply meaningful experience. And it was quite funny. We had facilitator Belle helping us out. And again, I remember sitting in front of you, like, I don't even know what to say to this man. And Belle gave me a prompt. And then I just started crying and you were crying. And then we were hugging. And I was like, wow, it was just such a deeply, deeply, deeply personal and moving experience. And
Yeah,
so I just want to say thank you for playing that role.
you're
So
most welcome.
if you hear Christian and I mucking around and me affectionately calling him daddy, there is a joke behind it, and there definitely isn't anything sinister there. So, Christian, something I want to ask, have you listened to that podcast with John and Aubrey Marcus?
Yeah, yesterday actually.
Yeah. So, a question that a realization that I had took away from listening to that podcast was that there were these two men, yes, with very different opinions, discussing some very, very heavy and big topics in the world. And something I realized though is that they both have severely different meanings of the word love. And it was almost like when they were in discussion, they were using this word interchangeably, but because they both have such big different definitions of it, there was a massive clash. And so, Christian, to start this podcast off, what is your definition of love?
Oh,
You knew I'd make it hard for you.
yeah, yeah, thank you. Look, I think my definition of love has evolved through my journey of personal development. Uh, Probably prior to personal development, my definition of love was probably based in fantasy, which was someone is just going to love me regardless. They're going to unconditionally support me, nurture me, look after me. Fuck, I'm sounding quite needy. Uh, Always going to be there. I'm going to argue, and basically, it sounds like I just wanted a servant. Um,
Or a
um,
mummy.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, Mel, will you be my mum? No. That that which is unrealistic, and it was probably it took quite a while for those idealisms and fantasies to be challenged and break over a number of years throughout my relationships. And I think there's a difference between human love, which is conditional, which is, well, if you do ABC, then I'll do XYZ, and we will exchange love as long as you sort of fit into this box and parameters. And then there's unconditional love, which is hard to put into words.
Hang on, I'm going to pick you up. I think you said unconditional for the first one. So the first one is conditional love,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
unconditional love
yeah,
is hard to
yeah.
put into
Sorry.
words.
Yeah, human love is conditional love, and then there's unconditional love, which through some of the work that we have done is again very difficult to explain, but it's seeing that anything that you have gone through or are going through, it is serving you and the evolution of you with where you are right now. And it's the complementary balance of polar opposites. So positive and negative, support and challenge, pain and pleasure. Um, yeah, that is what I now see as love. Um,
So how do
but
you know what the difference between human love and unconditional love is, and how do you know what it feels like to experience them?
so I would say, although I'm not a mother, I've heard this analogy used, and I think it fits quite well.
No, you're a daddy.
Correct, right? That let's say that you're a parent and you've just tucked your children into bed, and they're laying there peacefully, finally, after they've destroyed the house, and you see the beauty in your creation, in your children, and you tear up. But you realize that they are both painful and pleasurable. There are times where they are destroying the house and running amok and making your life hell. But then there's also times where they make your life amazing, fulfilling, give it meaning. And it's the balance of those two which make you tear up and go, oh wow, like that is love. It's not that they're always good and never bad. It's not that they're always bad and never good. They have a balance of both sides. So that is how I would explain uh, love.
So it's almost this, I mean, my experience of this, because I can say that I definitely don't think I experienced love until I saw both sides. And so probably that breakthrough weekend was one of the first times that I really experienced love. And it is this grounded, it's still expansive. Like if I think about how my heart and my chest and my vision went, like it was this big expansive feeling, but also my feet are on the ground and I had this really calm thought process behind it. Whereas if I think about human love, conditional love, there's a bit of anxiety attached to it and uncertainty and need. I think we used that word in the beginning, that like, you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
and look, I really think you sort of nailed something there, right?
I
That
often do.
that unconditional love, and when I'm working with people, I'll occasionally use this with them. That at the end of a series of questions to balance someone's perception and bring them to a place of unconditional love, I'll have some version of, if I could give you a magic wand and you could go back and you could change, shift, tweak, adjust any part of it for you, for them, for the whole event, whatever has happened, would you change anything? And when they come back and say, no, I wouldn't change a thing, that, like, it gives me goosebumps. That is the moment that I believe you were just explaining. That it's that,
That's love.
yeah. Conditional love, like you said, can have anxiety. It might be taken away from you. You could have fear. There's insecurities. Sometimes it might feel like love, but secretly it's excitement. But whether it's a magic wand or a time machine, or you say to someone, if you saw one of your closest friends, a family member, or your children to go through that same experience, would you change it for them? And I've worked with people that have said no. Like that is the state. And I think unconditional love is a state of being that we can sit in for a moment, but it's not a state that we can remain in for extended periods of time. So it's a moment of unconditional love.
Oh, I feel like I want to challenge you on that, Christian.
Go for it.
I don't disagree with you in the sense that I know that the minute we pop a moment of perception, so if you're not, if you, people listening up familiar with this terminology, if you have a really big charge on something, something's gone severely wrong, or, something, in this situation is what we would call, like, maybe you feel like you have a narcissist in your life and they've just come in and fucked things up and left you on the ground. And you pick a moment out of that, and we are able to find both sides of that coin where they were both challenging to you but also supporting you. That's when Christian's saying, like, in that moment of balanced perception, like I said, finding both sides, that there's that moment of love there. But right now, Christian, having this conversation with you, I feel like I'm in love. Like I have that feeling of like my feet are on the ground. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you. I know this conversation is going to be extremely meaningful and beneficial and of service to the people listening, regardless if they take one thing away or 50 things away. And so I also believe that love can be a state that you can be in for a prolonged period of time.
Okay. You
Are
mentioned
you going to
the,
burst my bubble? Don't burst my bubble. I'm feeling really good right now.
okay, when you've had a true moment of grace, has there been anything that you've wanted to say apart from thank you, I love you?
No.
So every time we speak, it's emotion because a state of true grace and gratitude, we're timeless, massless, spaceless, speechless because our heart's open.
Mm. So, what you're saying is, I'm actually in human love right now because it's conditional almost to how this conversation is going to go.
Potentially, but
Mm.
I would also like to add that when it comes to something that we genuinely love doing, we see both sides fairly close to simultaneously.
True.
So podcasting, connecting is something that you thoroughly enjoy, like you love. So you will take on both pleasure and pain, challenge and support in the process of doing those things, which make you simply by doing what you love sort of implies that you're closer to the balance point of doing things lower down on your values, which are going to be extremes, and you're going to be highly or like more emotionally charged.
And we've also made a conscious decision to be here. Both you and I have
Yeah,
had multiple discussions to get to here. We have an understanding of who we are, what we like, how we connect, how we communicate. And so there has been an educated decision that has led us here.
yeah, yeah. Because sometimes when we collapse perceptions, so we might have a perceived positive charge and a perceived negative charge. Through asking the questions and forcing those two charges together, which is the ions in the brain, we actually collapse them together. And sometimes it's only happened once to me, but when you have that pop or that realization, you can actually get a flash of light and everything seems brighter. And it's because like you've entered that state of true love and gratitude and light.
After breakthrough experience for me, the best way that I can describe it, sorry mum if you're listening to this, but I felt like I was high on mushrooms for 6 weeks. Like
Yeah,
everything was glowing and I everything was just love and light, and
yeah.
I was like, what is that? I would be driving my car not feeling safe because I was like, I am in another universe right now. And so it's a very, very, very powerful feeling.
I remember driving down when I lived in Adelaide. So
The one street that there is here in Adelaide, yeah.
I think it may have been Portrush Road, and I think I'd just like doing some of my own mindset work, right? And I'm driving down the road um, toward the freeway, and I just remember like tearing up. Right, I'm just driving right hand lane, and I just start tearing up because I'm looking at the trees and I'm thinking like they're green, but like they've always been green, but today like they're greener, like they're brighter. It was like someone had come along and got the brightness and the color like on your view of the world and just gone, let's turn everything up.
Yeah.
And like I was just grateful for trees. And yeah, it can sound silly because I'm just driving along and I'm like, the trees are giving me oxygen that I get to breathe. I'm like, the trees are looking after us, right? And so while I've never taken mushrooms, I've talked to
You
people
were
that have
there.
taken
You were
mushrooms,
there. You were
right?
absolutely there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I'm just grateful for, trees and just random shit. So like which was great, like yeah, so I've never really had to go and do the drugs to get those feelings. I just had to go through a series of really challenging relationships. So got into personal development and learned how to fuck with my own mind.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So
Probably cheaper to go and do mushrooms, to be honest.
heaps cheaper. Heaps cheaper. If before we take people, I think sometimes if you're unaware of what the direction that Christian and I are going to go with this conversation, this might seem a little bit alarming that we're, talking about being high as kites and having these really beautiful realizations, crying about trees giving us oxygen. But Christian, like you just touched on, I think something that's really important for people to realize is that people who have a really balanced perception on life and have these really beautiful outlooks and educated opinions, they've been through the shit. They have been through the shit to be able to take away the insight. So, what some of your story is to lead you to being where you are?
So
Keeping in mind, I would love to end this podcast by midnight tonight. So,
yeah, right. Oh, well, that is the first fantasy we're gonna crack. But you've just created the nightmare. Uh, no, look, the my journey, I guess, to now was um the first relationship that I had. Well, so if I just backstep just a moment, that I probably never really felt like I fit in. I had lots of friends and a few really close friends, but yeah, never really felt like I fit in. And I thought a relationship was going to make me feel loved. So I got the first relationship that I had, uh, probably late teens, maybe 20. Eventually that one ended, and I'm like, it is all them. They are the problem. Like it's not me, right? Because I'm pretty much perfect. The second relationship, that one ends. Like it is 90% them. They are still the problem. Third relationship ends. Like it is 15% me, but still it's 85% them. Like they're the problem. Like I just need to find the right person. By the time the fifth relationship rolled around and came to an end, um, I realized that there was one common denominator in all of my relationships, and that it may have been me, or actually it was. And then I was probably about 27 when I hit the lowest point in my life. A relationship had ended. I felt completely broken, still believing that a relationship like that was my path to be loved, that with that was the missing piece. I found out my girlfriend at the time had uh, cheated on me around the time of my birthday, which made me feel even worse. And so I thought, uh, I'm unlovable, no one loves me, there's no point being here, and I wanted to end my life. So that was around 27. Uh, I failed at ending my life, so that was quite a good success. And then then yeah, started into personal development. Like went to my first personal development event. Um, I think in the very beginning of 2015, I went to a relationship workshop, and I still remember sitting in the back of the room listening to the content, and I'm thinking, if only my girlfriend was here, because she needs to hear this. So
Also, it's still their problem.
yeah, like there was still a part of me that was, well, I'm going to, look at me, but it was still, I'll look at me if they'll look at them. Um, so yeah, there was about five relationships over a 10 or 12-year period. And going through a time where I really didn't want to be alive. Um, and I believe it was a Thursday, and I'd come home from work, and my laptop was open on the kitchen bench, and my girlfriend had logged in, to her Facebook on my laptop, and I've seen these messages. And one of them was, I hope your ass doesn't have my teeth marks in it. And I thought, those messages aren't for me, like, because my ass doesn't have teeth marks in it. Um, so I sort of spiraled down fairly hard. I had a dog at the time, Buster. I put Buster out in the backyard because I didn't want him to find my dead body in the lounge room. And so I put him out the back. I went to the kitchen and I got the largest kitchen knife I had and I sharpened it. Um, my mum was a chef, so we always had sharp knives, which, at the time was convenient. I walked into the lounge room and I've got the knife in my right hand and I'm sitting on the lounge. I'm looking just at my left wrist. I'm looking at the knife and I put it on my wrist and I'm just pushing down. And I'm thinking, just pull down. The pain will end. Like, just pull down. And I was pushing in that hard that, like, I hadn't moved it, but I could feel it was starting to cut my wrist. And then Buster, who was at the back, he's like banging his nose on the back door, like wanting to get inside. And I just remember like thinking, if I'm dead, who's going to feed Buster? Because he could be out there 3, 4, 5 days because I live by myself. And I dropped the knife and I just collapsed onto the floor and just started bawling my eyes out. And the thing that actually saved me was feeling guilty because I thought he'd be out there all alone and like he could starve. So it was guilt that actually saved my life.
Ooh.
And then uh, I don't know how long I was on the floor for, just sobbing. And there was, people talk about like an inner voice, right? But the only thing going through my mind was like, if you can't end it, find a way to fix it.
I was gonna say, like you having I don't know what the ethically correct or the politically correct words, the term, how to say it. If you had an episode where you nearly took your life, and then dove into personal development, that there are very opposite ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, yeah. So at the time, like I remember I got up, I let Buster in, went to my bedroom, and I think like Buster just followed me everywhere. And we, uh, I think for the first time, I'd I'd opened up and I'd told people how I was feeling. Because up until that point, I'd tried to bottle everything up. Not have any problems, not share. I'm okay, got the perfect life. But on the inside,
Where did that come from?
the perfect life.
Or the bottling up, the not sharing. Is that like a masculine thing and like, oh, men don't talk, men don't have feelings? Or is that something that you didn't feel like it was just something that you just never thought you could talk about? Nobody else talked about it, so maybe you couldn't talk about it. Where do you think it came from, not being able to talk about how you were feeling?
I can look back now and I say similar things to people I work with, that nothing that we do is neither good nor bad. It's simply a strategy that you've learned. And I can see that the bottling things up and not talking about things, that had been a strategy that I most likely picked up from my mum
Hmm.
because she had gone through stuff in her life uh, that, yeah, didn't get spoken about.
Hmm.
Yeah. And, then alongside that, well, we
God
never,
bless our boomer parents, honestly.
I know, they're like it's like Christmas every day.
Oh, they're the gift
They,
that keeps on giving, honestly.
they are. So, yeah. And then maybe alongside that, the not feeling like there was anyone or a safe enough environment for me really to feel heard. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, then, that Thursday night, I and like I had some really close friends, like ridiculously close friends. None of them knew what was going on. However, other people had commented that the friendship group that I had was, I just thought it was normal. But we had stayed so close even years since leaving school. We're sort of 19 years after leaving school, and other people didn't have the same connection with the people that they went to school with, where I did. So, and once I opened up to those people, like to my closest mates, um, that probably broke me in another way, but for good, because I realized that, like, it wasn't that I wasn't loved, like it was that I was loved more than I could possibly comprehend. Yeah, yeah,
If you're not watching this video, Christian, I think, is holding back tears. Like your eyes
yeah,
have just gone a
yeah.
little
Like
red.
I'm tearing up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and I said that at the start, like, you've never not been loved,
No.
like, and
It's such
but
an
but that,
it is such an overwhelming feeling when you realize it though.
yeah,
Such an overwhelming feeling.
yeah. But I'm not sad. Like, I'm just
No.
experiencing love.
Yeah.
That's yeah, all it
I
is.
think there is a bit of sadness. I don't know about you, but I know there was for me when I realized how loved I was and how much it was right underneath my nose and
Mm.
how long I'd not been able to see it. And so the minute I saw it, I was like, holy shit, I've literally missed so many opportunities of love and connection and all these things. They were there the whole time. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah, yeah. And then once that sort of opened up, like, things shifted. It's almost like you take the handbrake off. As soon as, do you know what? As soon as I got out of my own way, other people were able to help.
So weird.
I know, right? So, I can remember that within days, I was training jujitsu, and quite frequently, probably 4 or 5 times a week. One of the guys I used to train with, his dad was a psychologist, fully booked out. However, I got in, right? So, I went to like, friends were researching, checking in on me, like coming around, popping in, inviting me out, all of that stuff. Within the week, I was, chatting to a mental health professional. I like to think I got like a good mental health professional. I didn't know anything about coaching. Before all this, I thought life coaches and all of that stuff, massive scam. Like, yeah, wankers, full of shit. You don't need people to tell you how to live your life. Like, they just want your fucking money, right? Now I'm one of them. Um, so, went on a mental health plan, but there was a part of me that was, I'd felt like that for what seemed like so long. I was like, I don't want to spend the next 15 years trying to reverse, all of
Or
these
essentially
feelings.
manage. I find a lot of these
Yeah,
services just manage your
totally.
feelings and experiences. And
Yeah.
it's like Yeah, enough for the next, enough to get you through to the next episode appointment kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So my housemate at the time had mentioned, I think he had started seeing seeing a coach, or uh, something had happened where I found out about Michael Johnson. So back then, I think he was the Mojo Master. Um, I think he's sort of rebranded now, but that's who it was back then. And so I checked him out, went to this one day event, sitting in the back of the room, and still thinking, if only my ex could hear all this stuff, then we could be together. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of my journey, and some of the pain I went through, and how I got to where I am now.
Yeah, right. I have like scribbled all over my page, and something I would really love to maybe understand, and you might not know the answer to this question, but when you were explaining, each breakup, the first breakup was 100% her, the next breakup was 90% her, the next breakup was 85%. Do you remember what those first little glimpses into, oh, maybe I am the problem? Like, what were some of the things, the really low hanging fruit of some of the things that you started to notice were maybe your contributions?
Yep. So it was really the fourth relationship, when so that she cheated, and for the following 2 years I was just pissed off. I was angry. It's her fault. And then, from what I can remember, uh, I was just sitting on the lounge and just reflecting. And I don't even think at this point I'd even read a personal development book. I probably hadn't even read a book. Even when I was a child coming home from school, I used to pick the books that didn't have words in, so I didn't have to fucking read. Um,
The
but
Adelaide school system, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I can remember thinking that it can't be all her, because if it's all her, then I'm a victim and I'm not in control. So I started to look at, well, what role did I play in her cheating? And that fucking sucked when I started to look at, well, how did I contribute to her cheating? Because that wasn't a story that I wanted to look at the time, right? But then if I look at, say, 12 months prior to the relationship ending, I I wasn't sharing. I was trying to get her to change. I was uh, she wouldn't have felt that she could come to me emotionally and express her emotions. I was insecure and accusing her of, seeing other people and cheating even before she was. I had withdrawn intimacy. So,
I thought only women did that.
huh, surprise that uh, I hadn't created a very loving environment for her to participate in. So I had taken away all this stuff, and someone else appeared to give her all the things that I had taken away. And what I realized was, um, she deserves to be loved. And if it's not by me, it's going to be by someone else. When you stop working on your relationship, someone else will start.
Ooh. So that was going to be my next question. Why do people cheat? Can you
Look,
explain that universal principle?
why people cheat?
Yeah, that universal principle. No, the universal principle of basically nothing is missing, and that um, Yeah, what is lost will eventually transpire into something else.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'll
So there's two questions there. What's the universal principle behind that? And then, yeah, why do people cheat?
well, it's the what's it's transformation. I think it's the second law of thermodynamics, which is energy will not be can't be created or destroyed in the universe. It can only transfer or transform. So let's say that you're single
Let's
and
say.
you're looking for a partner. Everything you want in a partner will be in your life. Now, it may not be in the form you want it in because you want it in the form of the one, but it will be in your life in the form of the many. You might have a few people on a intimate roster, that come around
I mean, I
and
can speak from experience here. There was one point when I had ended a relationship, and I remember learning the law of the one and the many, and I was like, oh my God, I have my best mate who was living with me at the time. He was my emotional connection and my emotional
yeah,
conversations and intellectual conversations.
yeah,
I had what I called a handyman, and he would come over and fix physically fix the things. There's no dirty undertone in that. He'd just come and put the gate back on the hinges and fix a thing, bury the dead chickens, like
yeah,
do the things that I didn't want to do. And then, yeah, I had a lover that was literally physical, nothing else. And so I remember realizing, holy shit, I have manifested my perfect man in four different men.
yeah, yeah. Now, sometimes from my experience, why that happens is if we associate pain with the one, we will manifest it into the many to protect ourselves from experiencing the pain of the one. Now, the opposite is also true, that sometimes we experience pain of the many, so we manifest it in the one. But the oscillation is always there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm in a relationship now, but if I'm traveling, people come into my space to fill the role that I perceive as missing. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going out and sleeping with other women and things like that, but the nurturing, the compliments, the affection, whatever it may be that I perceive is missing will appear in the form of others.
Mm-hmm.
And before Emma, I used to joke around with a few of my friends and, had like 7 or 8 wives, right? That, you know, whether it be at events or friends' houses or whatever, there were always women that were there to provide the support, the affection, the disconnect, the people to argue with, people to have conflict. Like it was all there. It was just in different people. Um, so hopefully that sort of touches on that side of it, the transformation, but like nothing's missing. Now, at the level of the senses, we perceive things are missing, but when you actually go and look and go, um, well, I had a breakup, and the thing that I thought was missing was I used to love looking in my ex-girlfriend's eyes, like I loved her eyes. And then when I looked and I went, okay, well, because there's not like just a random set of eyes that have just popped up into my life. But I started noticing that I'd walk through the shopping center or I'd have, might be buying something and I was catching eye contact with just random people. So the need was still there, it was still being met, it was just in a different form. Cheating, there's probably like a lot of reasons, but the ones that I have seen be the ones that I've probably dealt with the most is uh, needs aren't being met and the their values are being challenged, right? Because we all have a set of values. I'm saying this for the audience, not you, because you understand this. We all have a set of values, a set of priorities that basically filter our reality and how we make decisions. in a relationship, you normally about 25% of your values will be common or similar. 75% will be different. People that support our values, we like. We want more of those people around us. Okay. People that challenge our values, we want to push away. We label them, they're an asshole, uh, shithead, whatever, fuck off, right? So we distance people that challenge us and we pull people in that
Support us.
support us. So when we start looking at relationship dynamics, if you perceive your partner is challenging your values more than they're supporting them over time, because like it's not going to happen in a day. You're not just going to challenge them, and do one thing and then they're going to go. There's like a bank of points, right? But if those scales eventually get out of whack or their needs aren't being met, then eventually someone else will come in or they'll go looking to fulfill their value. Because this is the big misconception that I talk about in one of my events, Empowered Relationships, is loyalty. People are not loyal to you. And people don't like that because it challenges them. People are loyal to the fulfillment of their own value system. That's what people are loyal to. So when you understand that and you realize that if I want my relationship with Emma to last, if I learn what her values are and then I communicate to her in a way that makes her values fulfilled, I am then the number one person on the planet for her to be in a relationship with. But if I stop doing that, if I stop learning to communicate in a way that makes her feel loved, appreciated, acknowledged, fulfilled, give her life meaning, I'm opening the door for someone else to come in or multiple people to come in to communicate to what's important to her better than I am. So from my experience, every time I've worked with someone that has had cheating, affairs, any kind of dynamic like that, that has been one of the contributing factors, that they don't understand what the other person needs. Now, there's processes and tasks that you can do to get both people working together and communicating better. And then, which I sort of touched on the next thing, which is, the needs, like your core needs need to be met. And something that I've realized is it's not uncommon to ask people, well, what do you need in a relationship? Sometimes they don't have an answer. So that can become a problem because then you've got needs, but you're unclear on what they are. So you can't communicate them. And then you can't give a strategy or an action plan to how those needs are going to be met. So you can see that can become part of a challenge.
A huge challenge. And I think there's so many different angles that I want to take this because, I mean, this comes back to if you don't know what your needs are or your core needs in a relationship, I'm just going to like spitball here and you can pick off what we want. Like if we think about a traditional relationship, you meet with someone, you have a crush on them, you think they're kind of cool, you have this cool energy with them, you're like, hey, I like spending time with you, let's spend time together. And all of a sudden, 12 months, 5 years, maybe not even that long down the track, conflict starts to occur and these needs aren't being met, but again we're not able to communicate them because we don't know what we want. oh, sorry, we don't know how to communicate them or how we are, but we know that we, if we go back to who you were and, love is being in a relationship. And if I'm not loved, I'm not worthy. So how do we remove ourselves from, I don't mean physically remove ourselves, but how can we sort of bird's eye view over that situation and start to understand, one, maybe what is a belief that we're, making up. Like for you, it was, I'm not loved unless I'm in a relationship. I mustn't be lovable unless I'm in a relationship. But then also have the ability to be able to understand, right, if I do have these core needs in a relationship, how can I start to communicate them? Because I think sometimes, speaking from my experience, speaking from my girlfriend's experience, it's fucking scary to be able to say, hey, this is actually what I need.
Yeah.
Because that kind of loops back around to, if I communicate with you, this is what I need, you might leave me. And if you leave me, I'm not lovable.
Mm. Yeah, great question.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christian is speechless for the first time in his life.
So, what immediately pops up for me is there's an element of self-trust. And what I mean by that is sometimes when we are in that dynamic of going, okay, well, maybe I'm becoming aware of some of my needs and but communicating them.
It's pretty obvious if your needs are not being met in some way, shape, or form, you know what your needs are. Because right now you're not
Yeah.
they're not being met. So
Yeah.
even if you can't articulate it, there is something in there that isn't
Yeah.
happening. So
Yeah.
what is that essentially? Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to touch on, the point you made around uh wanting to share them, but then being sort of worried about sharing them because there might be a belief that, whether they'll leave and uh that could trigger fears, worries, anxieties, that there's a self-trust component that goes, like, if we touch on the the energy is not uh lost or created, it's only transfers and transforms, then we need to develop the trust within ourselves that we can meet our own needs. Because when you know that you can meet your own needs, you won't be worried about sharing your needs with someone else in a relationship, because you'll understand that your needs have actually consistently been met and unmet throughout your entire life by many different people. And I think sometimes we project expectations onto the people we're in relationships with and expect them to do the work of many people. And sometimes that can be unrealistic. Does that kind of answer where you're coming from?
Kind of. I understand it. I'm trying to think if there's another way that I can, I guess, another angle that I can look at it, but I think that's a good start. So, you find yourself in this really, take yourself back to, when you're in that moment where you have, you've opened up your laptop and there's the messages there from Mr. Bite a Lot about the marks on not your ass. And so in that moment, you're like, there's this agonizing pain of rejection. I don't know what that feeling would have been for you in the moment, but it's like, but in your head, you're like, but I love this person. So how is this not, I love them. The world's like, the relationship is reflecting back to you that it's not fucking working. Something needs to change. But you're standing there like, I love you. Why isn't that enough?
Yeah, yeah, like,
You think about, I mean, I know I've been in situationships where I'm like, oh my God, I love you. Why is, why isn't, yeah, um, why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you this? Why aren't you, or I've got friends who have been um, who have been mistresses and they're like, but I love him.
Yeah. I think for me, when I go back, and especially if I look at it now, I go, well, was I in love with them, or was I in love with the idea of who I thought they could be? And even when I opened the laptop and read that stuff, yeah, there was, I was hurt, angry. My beliefs at the time, a big one was can't trust women. I'm not enough. I'm unlovable. And but yeah, I feel like underneath that there was thinking that someone else could solve a problem that was mine to solve. Because everything, and you and I have experienced this, but every answer that you or the audience is looking for, you already have. You are your greatest problem and your greatest solution both at the same time.
I am hands down my greatest problem.
Right? So the problem under the problem in that dynamic for me was, yes, I was loving them, but equally I was loving them from a selfish place because I was loving them to try and get love back. So was I actually loving them?
But you also,
Like now we're talking human love,
we are definitely
not,
talking human love.
yeah, which is conditional,
Yeah.
right? Because and that plays into it because it was, well, I'm going to project expectations onto this person. Now I may not communicate the
Mm.
expectations, but I'm going to project them, and I'm going to create a set of rules that I want this person to live within. And as long as they live up to the expectations I project and the rules I set, now that whole thing is unrealistic. It's fucking delusional because people are going to live by their own values, morals, ethics, and rules, not yours. So we're setting ourselves up to be betrayed by expecting them to live according to how you live and not honoring how they live. So yeah, underneath that, it was like, here are all the rules. I love you, but I'm loving you because I want something back instead of I'm loving you because I love who you are. And then when I got mistreated, which I didn't get mistreated, it was just based on how I wanted to be treated. She broke the imaginary rules that I'd created, and then I projected onto her, you're mean, that's not fair, you've mistreated me. But I wasn't looking at what she wanted. She probably, well, I've actually had a conversation with her about it, so I know what she wanted. She wanted to feel safe, secure, feel like she could open up, express emotionally. She wanted to feel special and beautiful, complimented, affection. I wasn't providing that. So, when you look at that, and I look at that through the lens of, okay, well, I was only giving to get. I wasn't giving to show love.
My mind is just ticking ticking away. But we also show up in these relationships, right? Where, if we carry again your example of I'm not lovable unless I'm in a relationship, we don't show up as ourselves. We show up as the person that we maybe think that our partner wants us to be, or we think that they need, and therefore we're unable to show up as ourselves or authentically. And I think something that ultimately everyone listening to this episode is going to want to know: how do I love? How do I be love? How do I give love? And essentially, you can't be or give love unless you are yourself, right?
Yeah. So, well, I did a minute story on this today, right? But how do you give love? How do you show love? My answer is probably fairly simple. Love yourself because
I'm not going to lie, I fucking hate it when people say that. I really fucking hate it when people say that. Just love
yeah,
yourself. Just be yourself.
good, good.
Because what the fuck is that? And, I think we're in a world where people do try and love themselves and do try to be themselves. And it's almost this perpetual cycle of not loving or being themselves. So, no offense, Christian, for you to say, just love yourself. I fucking hate that piece of advice.
Excellent. Can I expand on it now?
Go for it.
Cool. Most people try and love the parts of themselves they like. And I think the large majority of people, when they say you've just got to love yourself, they're probably trying to love the parts that they like, admire, are positive, are great, that get complimented, that they want to show more of. Um, but they struggle to love the parts that they feel guilty about, ashamed of, they want to hide, don't want exposed.
They don't
The
want to own.
they don't want to own it, right? And some of the most common problems people face in relationships, from my experience, is they get into relationships, right? And they go, "You've fucking never met anyone like this person. Like, they've got hobbies, but they've got amazing hobbies. They've got two arms, like I've got two arms,
Get the fuck out.
right?" And we look at people because we're in a state of infatuation and we over exaggerate all the positives and we become blind. Like, so we see all the we see all the green flags and we're like, you wouldn't fucking believe it, Mel. I've met this woman and I swear there is no red flag. Like, and I've fucking
She's
looked,
perfect.
right? She is. Have you seen that video where like there's a unicorn? She's like the unicorn of the unicorn, right? 12 months later, 6 months later, Mel, you won't fucking believe it, right? That bitch, right? Or that asshole, he's slept with my mum, he slept with my sister, he's done this, he's done that, right? All of that shit was there at the start. You were just ignorant and didn't see it. So we've got to be mindful that what we are initially attracted to
Will
will
come back
actually
and bite us on the ass.
yeah. Sometimes, yeah, literally, right? But what what we actually initially like over time can become the thing that we end up resenting that breaks us up. Um, so for instance, there's been times throughout my life where I may have really admired someone's beauty, and that was the initial attraction. But then at the end, I was like, I can't deal with every guy looking at them, right? You might want someone that's really ambitious. I, I love how driven they are. I love how motivated they are. They're just always working. Motherfuckers never got time for me. Always fucking at work, right? Family's always last. It's like he doesn't even care. So you want to go into relationships with like calming down what you want to look for, because everything you admire also has the equal number of downsides and drawbacks. But sometimes we just ignore them and we go, do you know what?
I'm going to the circus today. Let's go. Let's go follow these flags.
Right, right. Um, so one of the things I've done with a few people is, when they tell me about someone, I'll get them to list everything that they like and admire. And then I'll go, okay, what are the downsides of all those things? And we keep going until they feel neutral on each thing. Like, wow, well, he was driven. I thought that was a great thing, and it is a good thing because he might be able to provide and offer a lifestyle, but equally, he's probably not going to be just working a 40-hour week. Might be doing 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and there'll be limited time. And I'll probably have to deal with a lot of the family challenges and things like that. So just by opening your awareness up, like you can begin. I've actually forgotten your original question. I'm on a tangent now. But you can begin to just open up your awareness and move into a relationship with eyes open. So you actually see all of the stuff that's going on. So you don't get blindsided months later or years later and go, oh my God, I keep fucking running into the same person. Well, like, are you, or are you just really fucking ignorant and not seeing the pattern that's playing out? Because sometimes people want to try and find a one-sided person.
I think the original question was, you said something along the lines of just love yourself. And I was like, that's fucked advice.
That's right. Okay. So, well, based on what I just finished with was most people try and uh, or some people try and find a one-sided person. The process of loving yourself is you need to love both sides. Like you are both painful and pleasurable. You are supportive and challenging. You are positive and negative. And when you love the perceived good parts of yourself and the perceived negative parts of yourself, then you can love those parts of others. But if you're trying to disown the part of yourself that you don't like, you won't appreciate it in anyone else. But life, and I can't explain this, life has a way of sending you the people that you need until you learn to love that behavior. Because what I've noticed in relationship dynamics, what you don't love in yourself, you'll either attract it, breed it, or become it. So the parts of yourself that you don't love, you might attract in through colleagues, romantic partners, and you end up going, I don't know why I keep fucking running into the same type of people. I'm going to move interstate, and you move interstate, and you're going to have a fresh start. And then you start at work, and you go, you wouldn't fucking believe it. I've run into the same type of fucking person. Again, can't explain it. It seems to be a pattern. Life keeps sending you the people that you need in order to love that part of yourself. Or you go, I know, I'm not going to socialize anymore. I'm just going to stay at home. I'm going to have kids. And then you have kids. And the thing that you don't like in others, you then figure out within months or years that you've bred that into your life. Because if you haven't learned to love it in others, then you attract it, so you learn to love it in your children. Now, if you're really fucking ignorant, you might get a few decades down the track and you go, oh, fuck, Mel. Do you know what I've just realized? I'm just like my mum, or I'm just like my dad. I've turned into the fucking person I never wanted to be. Because if you're not going to love it in others and you're not going to love it in your kids, you'll become it so you can learn to love it in yourself.
Yeah,
Life,
that. Sorry, Co.
life has a weird, creepy, fantastic, fucked up way to make sure that we all get what we need in order to love the parts of ourselves that we're ignorant to.
So ultimately, to loop back to the beginning of the podcast, what is the definition of love? You could almost say that life is the definition of love, and that we are on this evolving journey to learn how to truly love ourselves and be at peace with ourselves and others.
Yeah. I in in the planning of empowered relationships, I'd been working through some messaging and just digging deeper into why I do what I do. And I was at a networking event and I got the opportunity to speak. And I thought, I'm going to do things a little bit different. Right? I'm not just going to get up and go, hi, my name's Christian from Quality Relationships, blah, 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 because every motherfucker's done that. And in, my unique style, I'm like, how can I be like a little bit cheeky, right? So I get up and I go,
For those of you who don't know Christian, he is like the master antagonizer. If there is a way that he can stir the fucking pot, he fucking will.
yeah, but in a way that can be
In the best
helpful.
possible way,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So I stand up in front of probably 30 or 40 business owners and I go, now if you're listening, do this as I say it. I
I
want you
hope
to
they're
think of,
listening. Whoever is listening to this, I hope they're listening.
yeah, yeah. I want you to think of someone that you've got a really good relationship with. And I give them a moment. Then I ask, put your hands up if you thought of yourself. Not one hand went up.
Do you know what's really annoying is that I know you were going to ask that question and I still didn't even think of myself.
And then I went on to explain the one relationship or that relationship is the longest relationship we will ever have. You won't have a relationship with anyone else as long as the one you have with yourself. And it's the most important one. We're stuck with ourselves 24/7. Like you can tell other people to fuck off. You can try and tell yourself to fuck off, but you won't listen.
Doesn't work very well.
So, my message, I feel like I've got lots of them, but like really, my approach is put the time and effort and energy into the relationship with yourself because it it is the one that will pay you back, like time and time again. Like it's the longest and it's the most important. And from my work, I think it's the one that the majority of people invest in the least.
Mic
And
drop.
like that's
I quite literally had this conversation with a girlfriend of mine. She was asking me about, I think, peptides or something like that. And I was like, what specifically about peptides are you asking me? She was like, I don't know. They're just all these conversations. And I was like, look, at the end of the day, people are willing to spend money on anything and everything to change their aesthetic appearance and to avoid how they feel inside. And I believe if people spend a fraction of the money that they spend on their external world or their external appearance, they'd have no idea how their life would change. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I once ran an event when I first moved to Gold Coast. Like I live in Sydney now, but when I first moved to Gold Coast, and I think it was a 5 to 6 hour event, and there was a process that I took people through in that event, and it was um, basically any part of your physical body that you didn't love, we would find the benefits and how it served you, and find how to love that part of your physical body. I had uh, someone attend that event in the morning. They they were getting ready and they put a gym crop top on. And when they were leaving the house, they had really bad eczema on their back. So they decided to wear a jacket. Now, I didn't know this at the time. I found out later in the day, but they were really self-conscious of the eczema on their back. And it took them through that process. I'm ignorant to their situation. They finish the process, have this incredible realization, and we're doing, the benefits of eczema on the back for her. She goes to the bathroom, comes back into the room, bawling her eyes out. She goes, my eczema's gone. Gone. And it was taking up probably a third of her back. Takes her jacket off, shows everyone, had a photo of it in the morning, and could not recognize, it was gone. The power of just loving yourself as you are. And that doesn't mean that you can't go and change things about your body or anything like that. I'm coming from the place of, before you go and change a part of your body, love it first. It doesn't mean that you're not going to go and change it, but
An
don't change it.
expansion on, like, if you change anything you, I guess, invest in, you invest in the state that you're in, right? So if you're changing something out of discomfort or disapproval
Desperation.
or hate or desperation, and you go and change that, you
Yeah.
almost invest in that feeling.
Yeah.
So the feeling of detest or unlovableness or whatever it is going to grow because
Yeah.
you've just put more money into hoping to change it. It hasn't. And so that then the void to fill that becomes bigger. But if you can find neutrality and love and peace for something and you then go and change it, that then expands.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you've changed the perception around it. You've gone from, I'm changing this from I don't like it, to I'm appreciating what I have and I'm just going to appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Look, but yeah, that cleared up in an instant as soon as she loved what was already there. People, in my opinion, I think people just massively underestimate how powerful their body and mind can
I
be.
was just going to say it's the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, most of the time, we just need to get the fuck out of our own way. Like, you know, yeah, which circles back. You're never not loved. You never will be. It's
I totally agree with you. And I feel like that conversation around emotions and body is just a whole another topic because, I mean, it's something that I'm really diving into at the moment when the physiology appears, what is the emotional meaning underneath it. And it's such a, I think the world is changing and I think we're definitely starting to see it more. But yeah, again, I really wish people really knew the power of the work that we do and the ability to change not only the way we see the world, but how we physically show up in the world.
yeah,
Oh my God, I've just had a little connection there with my values. My connection is one of my highest values is self-expression. And again, the more that I've done the work, the more that I have been able to expand on like my hair and my glasses and like things that aren't necessarily massive investments, but they're just an extension of me. And again, people often comment, oh, you're glowing, oh, you're this. Literally all I'm doing is mindset work, people. Go and fix your mind. I do have some questions for you, Christian, if you're open. I have so many questions for you, but I have a really big question for you.
okay.
So obviously I'm a female. Maybe it's not obvious. I am female, and so I can only speak from the female dating experience. But one of the biggest questions I have, Christian, is something that annoys the absolute fucking daylights out of me is how many women, strong, smart, independent, driven, like that love to the end of the earth, how do they find themselves in relationships with absolute fucking dickheads or find themselves in these really shameful situations which they can't talk about?
It's a very vague, big question, isn't it? Um,
Is it?
well, like there's so many dynamics that can play out for people why they, go for certain people, why they attract certain people. Um,
Like if I look at my life, I have some really, when I say successful, I look at their career, right? They have these really beautiful careers and they are driven and they are passionate and they're not working dead end jobs. They are working jobs that they really love and fulfill them. They're intelligent in the way that they read and the information that they absorb, the conversations that we have. They are loving, in the sense that I know that when I connect with them or I watch them interact with the people around them, they are giving deeply personal gifts and thoughtful gifts or sharing experiences with them in, almost in the other person's love language or value system because they can see and read that. But then when it comes to their romantic life, like you said earlier, if you were to ask them if your best friend was in that situation or your sister was in that situation, would you want them to continue? And the answer would 9 out of 10 be no. I wouldn't want anyone else to experience this relationship. But they keep putting themselves in these douchebaggery situations. Why
well,
is that?
why? Well, look, like,
I'm coining that term, by the way, douchebaggery situations.
yeah, look, I'm gonna preface this by saying, you know, like I don't specialize in like dating type coaching, uh, but
You're the doctor of love. What are you talking about?
oh, yeah, I know that is the rumor, right? Normally, when I've worked with that type of dynamic, one of the first avenues I generally explore is what their relationships were like with their parents or parent-like figures. Now, until I'm working with a specific individual, like this is just going to seem really, really vague. But I believe, and I guess over the years I've been coaching, what I've seen is we're not taught how to have relationships. Like it's not a class at school. There's, apart from going to a relationship workshop or reading books or whatever, it could be seen as it's kind of just up to luck. Like what role models did you have? Now it could be parents, parent-like figures, grandparents, whatever. But I also believe that, and I touched on this before, that everything kind of do in life, it's a strategy. And at some point it works. So for some people, they might see the relationship between their mum and their dad, and maybe mum was overbearing, maybe dad was overbearing, and various other dynamics. But then we can, like, if I'm trying to think to a specific example where I've worked with like a really powerful woman who has dated a douchebag, right? And some of the common patterns I've seen is one, they might be trying to uh, save or control, because if they're powerful, they may not ever want to be overpowered, so they attract into their life someone that they can have the power over, but then the masculine and feminine energy can play out because you might have a woman that in her career is slightly more masculine, and then they attract in a male that is slightly more feminine. Now, say 90% of the time, women are slightly more sit slightly more on the feminine side and men sit more on the masculine side. But if those energies are reversed, then you need strategies for the woman to become feminine when work switches off, and strategies for the guy to find his balls and own being a man and being able to speak up and be the protector and provider. Um, but yeah, I would say that it's generally just strategies that we've picked up throughout our life of what we've seen other people go through, and then we play those out uh, and keep looping until we learn what we need to learn and repair the relationship with ourselves so we can attract in what we actually want. But any dynamic that's out there is serving the person, both people, but if we're talking about the woman that's got the douchebag, there's something within her psychology that is keeping her there because there's something in that dynamic that's serving her values and what's important to her. Otherwise, they'd end it and they'd move on. But if they keep going back, there's a repeated pattern, there's a cycle. And it's going, well, until you pinpoint what it is that you're getting out of it because it's your needs and your values, the cycle will just continue to repeat. Uh, there's other dynamics where I've seen very successful women that hold very powerful positions that always wanted children but never had them. And then in their romantic relationship, they attract a man in that behaves like a child. So now they're in a romantic relationship with someone, but they get to sort of mother them and be control and raise the man who's really a man acting as a child. Like there's just like I wish I could tell you that there's these four dynamics and that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You fit
It
into all
is.
four. Um, but yeah, I've seen the child one. I've seen it's someone gets fucked over in a previous relationship and then they go, right, from now on, I'm going to put my walls up. I'm going to build this invisible castle and no fuckers getting into it. Right? I've got all the defenses. We can be together, but you're always going to be on the outside because the last time I let someone else in, the one guy came over the wall and he fucked me over that way. Another guy came under the wall and he fucked me that way. So now the wall goes down into the ground. It goes up really high. And it's really like crocodiles in the moat. No fucker can get in. And I've got fucking people with arrows on the top. Like you stay there. You've got your, this is my boundary. But the boundary is there to keep them safe. So it's they sometimes they might go, well, the boundary's there, because this is my boundary. But it's like, yeah, but is the boundary there to protect you? And is it protecting you from, like, what's it protecting you from? Is it protecting you from the hurt? Or is it actually protecting you from being seen, understood, and loved? Like, what's the protection for?
And again, in both situations, even if there is a douchebaggery situation happening, yeah, it's serving a purpose and you're getting something out of that, whether it be conscious or unconscious, that you're inviting in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we had this conversation in Brisbane last year that, I've had some pretty epic moments with my dad in the last 12 months. And I just remember like this light switch, someone had switched a light on. And I said to you in the back of the Uber, I was like, holy shit, Christian, I've realized how my relationship with my dad has shaped the way that in which I receive love from men and in the way that I date. And like there was this huge, and I just wish more women knew these patterns, but it was like this huge, I felt so much grief for myself and grief for the men that I had dated because I wasn't able to show up as myself. I was projecting onto them. Um, but I was going to ask you, what parent dynamic do you normally see show up in, if people are struggling in their relationships, which parent is it that has influenced their relationship styles the most?
Oh, look, I would. What have I maybe 51% women, 49% men, something like that. No, that I so with men that I've worked with, well, yeah, like again, I can see both, but uh some of the men I've worked with that have been in relationships, they have had perceptions around their mother being unloving, their mother or mother like figure, right? So that could be step parent, something like that. Um, and in the people I'm thinking of, when they've perceived a challenge with their mother or mother like figure, they have uh, been pussies, to say it lightly. Uh, that they subordinate, try and please, don't speak up, don't want conflict, uh, which all of that creates the exact thing they're trying to avoid because women don't actually want a man that's gonna agree and just, you know, yes, yeah, whatever you want, dear, whatever, yeah, yeah, sweet, no, that's fine. Uh, it might sound nice for a day, give it longer than that. Women, in my experience, want to, at some point, maybe unconsciously test their person they're with to see if they've got a backbone and balls. Um, so yeah, that has been a dynamic that I've seen quite a few times where they minimize themselves and become the puppy dog that just follow them around and lick their ankles and shit like that. Uh, and that generally, when the men realize that they've actually got some nuts between their legs, their relationship can change. That's definitely happened a few times. The men, the and again, like I just want to preface this by saying this isn't everyone that's got an issue with mom or dad or whatever is always the same because there's so many fucking different shit out there. Uh, but then there's been guys I've worked with or men I've worked with that have had an overbearing father figure, and they can become, or when they've reached out, emotionally numb, shut off, don't listen. So then the conflict or the challenges in the relationship tend to be around my wife's leaving because I don't listen, I don't understand, I just solve her problems, like I don't fucking get it. Um, and some patterns around that type of stuff. Then we have women, uh, a common one, occasional, well, yeah, quite common. daddy's little girl. So no man is ever gonna match the love that my dad showed me. So unconsciously, every man is compared to the love that dad showed. And in comparison, no guy's ever going to live up to that. So you got to take that off the pedestal. Uh,
I just had a little realization. So if I was daddy's little girl and then daddy took that love away, could that be an unconscious also driver for me to be like, oh, I've had that love and I know that it can literally disappear overnight. So
Absolutely.
that's not safe for me now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then uh, women that have had challenges with mum, what are some of the people I've worked with there? That's probably the least common that I've experienced so far. Uh, oh, actually, no, I've got someone in that dynamic. They uh, burnt through relationships with women and preferred relationships with men, both platonic and romantic. And yeah, they would within friendship groups, they would uh yeah, burn through uh so yeah, they'd burn through more female to female relationships and would be somewhat shut down and dismissive. Yeah. So there's four, but within those four, there's
Oh, heaps.
yeah, yeah.
So some.
But like the one consistent thing that I generally come across is whenever someone's having a relationship challenge, it is very rarely the person they're in the relationship with, right? So I would say 9.2 times out of 10, if someone's telling me or I'm on the phone, however, uh, it's normally tell me about a relationship with your mum, with your dad, and then it normally gets back traced and they go, oh, shit, okay, yeah, right. We've all got mum and dad issues.
We all have mummy and daddy issues, all of us,
Yeah,
all different flavors.
that's it. That's it. And if it's not mum or dad, it's a mum or dad like figure.
I think
Right.
that's also something really important to understand is that, these two, like mum and dad or the mum and dad figures are literally the people that taught us how to love in those infant years. And so even if as an adult you might have a good relationship with them, still understanding that these two key characters were highly influential in our formative years. And so again, like I said, even if you have a good relationship with them, they're going to have influenced us in some way, shape, or form. And so when you and I are talking about mummy and daddy issues, you don't have to have a bad relationship with your parents to still have an odd dynamic in which you're bringing into your own relationships.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, it's like
I had
things
this conversation with a friend of mine recently. She went through a really bad breakup and, started listening to some self-help podcasts specifically around relationships. And she said to me, she's like, but I don't have a bad relationship with my parents. I was like, you don't have to have a bad relationship with your parents to understand that how you learn to receive and give love through them is then something you're trying to recreate in your intimate relationships.
yeah, sometimes it's the and this is the dynamic of, daddy's little girl or mummy's boy. Sometimes the relationship is that good that creates the fantasy of how they're going to be treated, which creates the nightmare of which is the reality that they live in their relationship. So yeah, like exactly what you're saying. It doesn't have to be a bad relationship. I've met many men and many women that men have had a mum that's done everything for them, always been supportive and nurturing. Then they get into a relationship and they start getting feedback from their partner, right? Don't leave your dishes there. I'm not your mum. I don't do your fucking washing. You can do that. What have they had? They've had 20 years where mum's done everything for them. Then they get in a relationship and then all of a sudden, oh, she doesn't love me because she's not doing anything for me. No, you've been over nurtured, over supported. Now she's there to wake you up to realize that you're a fucking human and you need to contribute to the relationship. Because if you don't contribute to the relationship, someone else will come in, they'll contribute more than you. You'll be back in on mum's doorstep going, what the fuck happened? Right? And then the same dynamic happens for daddy's little girl. Right? I've always been, dad's always done everything for me. So then they get a guy that then stands up to them, speaks up, stands his ground, has boundaries. They don't know how to handle it, so they flip out, get emotional, right? And it's not like I'm not saying women can't get emotional, like that's not what I'm saying at all. That but they throw a tantrum to try and get their own way because when they were six, that's what they did, and dad gave them everything they wanted. It's a strategy. Like it's not good or bad. It's a strategy. Like you learned it, and when you were six, it worked. But now you're 25. It's not working anymore, right? It's the wrong strategy for the wrong age. Six, good in the supermarket, scream, yell, sit down, shit on the floor, do whatever, right? Get the toy, okay? 25, you can't shit on the floor anymore. Like you can, different consequences,
Different consequences.
right? So, know, we need to look at we don't need to, but if we want to evolve our relationships, we might want to look at some strategies.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make dad a bad person, doesn't make mum a bad person. They were just loving, and they were doing the things that they thought was right at the time based on their upbringing. So it's not here to be right or wrong, good or bad. It's just that's what it is.
Comes back to us.
Yeah, like is it working? No. Okay, let's change it. Simple. Well, I say it's simple, but
Christian, there's one more question that I want to ask, and that's just before you touched on masculine and feminine energy. And I shared with you before we hit record that I get really triggered by these words because sometimes I feel like it takes us into the, spiritual, woo-woo space that, is the feminine has to be, all loving and open and flowy and energetic, and the man is the provider and is strong and all of these things, and then it also takes me into gender roles. The woman is the one that gets to be in the kitchen nurturing or whatever that looks like for her, and then again the man is the provider. How do you define or differentiate between masculine and feminine, and how does it show up in everyone?
So when I first learnt about it compared to now, and I haven't really studied it for quite a while because I was questioning where I sort of sat. And I think part of the reason I was questioning it was there were some groups and I guess other coaches or educators that teach masculine and feminine, and some just seemed, in my opinion, absolute fucking rubbish. But sounded good because it sounded like a Disney movie and everything could be great all the time and you'd never have any fucking problems, which I'm 41. I've never been without fucking challenges. Like, so yeah, I have my view is that there's a spectrum, and 90%, approximately, about 90% of women are on the feminine side of the spectrum, and 90%, like their natural state would be on the feminine, and men, natural state, 90% would be on the masculine. But it's a spectrum. So you could be near the middle or at the extreme. Okay. Now, if you're a very masculine guy that's at the opposite end of the middle, then you're probably going to attract in a feminine woman that is the opposite end to you. Meaning, so, and I'm not going to get into gender roles, but the traditional type of relationship, if you've got the masculine male that is very career focused, business focused, earns income, very traditional masculine role, they are probably going to attract in a very feminine, wants to be at home, look after the kids, and fit those traditional type roles. And there's nothing at all fucking wrong with that. Okay? Like that's between them. Now, we can also have people that are just on the masculine, but right near the middle, and just on the feminine, right near the middle. Now, sometimes you, how do I say this without pissing lots of people off?
Fuck them.
Okay. Sometimes you get really, really, really wooey people, men and women, and you're like, you know, they like really just that
It's
they
all like a
don't
pipe dream.
really well, like they're not super masculine, they're not super feminine, they're all about like just sitting in the middle. And you know, I remember, I don't know why this has popped up in my mind, right? But like I remember seeing people like this where, you know, that they were sort of probably disassociated from reality. And it took three of them, we're in a shopping center. I saw three of them counting change to get, you buy a pumpkin and fucking three apples or something. And like that's cool. That's their life, right? But they're probably like none of them are super career driven, income driven, super masculine. So, you know, they might want some of that, but they're on the wrong side of the spectrum.
Mm.
Uh, but now, again, when I sort of go through this in events, I say to people that because it's a spectrum, we're all on there. It doesn't mean that men are always masculine. There are moments where men are on the feminine side and that they have feminine energy. There are times when women are on the masculine side because they might be in high powered roles. They might be CEO, running companies, running businesses. They are going to be more decisive and direct throughout their business day or their work day because that's the energy they need to be in to fulfill their role. But it constantly swings. They're one of the best examples that I guess that demonstrates masculine and feminine energy is, let's say you wake up in the morning, it's uh, Saturday morning, right? And you've got husband and wife in bed. Masculine energy can wake up and go, right, I got shit to do. We're going to get up, we're going to do this and this and this. We've got a to-do list, a checklist, this stuff I want to get through. Okay, so task focused, linear. So I'm going to do this thing and then this thing and then this thing and then this thing. And I'm going to go until all the things are done. And then when all the things are done, I'm going to rest. Okay. Feminine wakes up and goes, honey, just stay in bed for another 5 minutes. The feminine energy can control masculine energy way more than men want to admit, right? So feminine energy has the power to pull masculine energy into the moment and it'll flow. And so the masculine energy wants to get up and drive and achieve. Feminine energy is about flow and presence in the moment. Now,
Do you know what I'm
when,
hearing in this though? Not to cut you off in the middle of your tangent, is that when I
yeah,
think about my parents, for example, that masculine energy, quote unquote, was my mum. Get up, got things to do, checklist, da 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 da. And again, if I think about women in marriages or relationships today, that's them. They're the ones going, I've got things to do, get moving, blah, blah, blah. And so
uh,
that's an example of masculine energy in the feminine.
yeah. So I'm just looking through a folder that I've got here that is in empowered relationships. I should have, here we go. I think I might be onto it. So masculine energy, like if we refer it to kind of nature, masculine energy is like wood, steel, and fire. So masculine energy can heat up really quick. So if we see two guys fighting, you'll see that it can escalate really quick. Then it also dies down really quick. Two guys watch the UFC. Two guys can literally try and beat the shit out of each other for 3 to 5 rounds and then hug,
Shake hands and hug, yeah.
right? Uh, then uh, feminine energy is more like water and earth. So earth is very nurturing, giving, resourceful, uh, creates growth. Water, life-giving, flow can be in multiple forms. So when the way I look at it is if we look at it through the lens of nature, there's masculine and feminine elements in nature, and I think they relate to uh, people. Now, I'll just read some of these, but females with unbalanced masculine energy, some of and these are this is exactly what you go through. These are just some common things that I've noticed and learned about. So, females, symptoms of unbalanced masculine energy: bitter, angry, jaded, controlling, unbalanced and self righteous, aggressive, agitated, a loss of menstrual cycle, inflexible, burned out, anxious, lack of care and compassion. Females with unbalanced feminine energy: over emotional, very indecisive, depressed, oversensitive, ungrounded, feel alone, self loathing, big peaks and troughs emotionally, lack of drive, oversleeping. Males with unbalanced masculine energy: controlling, emotionally manipulative, inflexible, burned out, physically destructive, anxious, abusive, stressed, frustrated, insensitive, disconnected, overthinking. Males with unbalanced feminine energy cannot make a decision. So this might fit with some of the dynamics that we talked about earlier. So males with unbalanced feminine energy can't make a decision, no drive, unmotivated, emotional breakdown, self-loathing, unsupportive to self and others, airy fairy, poor me, no goals, feel alone, unloved, victim, self-righteous. So let's say we have a couple and we have a woman who, now there's no right or wrong energy, right? But let's say that we have a woman that's unbalanced in her masculine energy, she might attract a male that is unbalanced in their feminine energy because the balance has to be maintained. So now each person needs a strategy to sort of re-neutralize their natural energy. That's the basic. And again, I haven't studied heaps and
The
heaps
problem
of
under the
this,
problem. Yeah.
but yeah, like when I've worked with people around it, we come up with strategies on, what do you need to do to get back in touch with your feminine self and your masculine self. Can I share one story?
Please.
So what I realized for me was, I think after I ran my first Empowered Relationships event in Gold Coast, it was a Saturday and Sunday, and I think it was the Monday or the Tuesday. I was just going for a morning walk down by the beach. And I realized that after the event, like I was completely wrecked, like absolutely wrecked. And all I wanted was nurturing, wanted to be supported and looked after. And when I was going for this walk, what I realized was in planning events, I I needed my feminine energy to create the plan of after event care. So my feminine energy had
We
to
love
look
aftercare on
after
this podcast.
the feminine energy created the nurturing so I could recover and recuperate and look after the masculine energy. Now, that might sound really wooey, uh, but for me, it was like, okay, well, there's running an event or leading an event is very uh, action orientated, very masculine at times.
Bit of both. You have to create the event, right?
Yeah,
So there's that creative,
yeah,
feminine, nurturing,
yeah,
life bringing, and then, yeah, the
yeah,
action in which to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And what I realized was, they were both activated leading up and during, but after was just forgotten about. And then when I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. The feminine side of me has got to watch out for the masculine side of me. So the feminine is going to create the aftercare for the event. So then masculine me, because after the event, I don't want to make fucking decisions. I am decisioned out. I've been making decisions leading up to it and during the event. You get me Sunday night of the event, Christian, where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know. I don't care. Right? People would class that as feminine energy.
Mm,
I'm fucking decisioned out.
mm,
That's it. So part of the lead up to the event, organize where we're having dinner, what we're doing afterwards. Do I need a massage? Like, am I doing calls? Whatever.
mm.
Organize all that. So Sunday night comes, I don't have to make decisions. I can just be in my feminine energy and look after myself. And I think some people misinterpret that and go, well, you're a guy, you always need to be in masculine energy. No one can just constantly make fucking decisions. It's unrealistic. Like you need to look after yourself.
You need to look after yourself. Did you hear that, people?
Yeah. So look, I've got, lots to say on masculine and feminine energy, as for what men and women want out of relationships, especially at the start.
I think what I'm hearing in that too is, though, again, coming back to the earlier part of the podcast, is it's regardless of if, and I'm talking about being in a relationship in this sense, but regardless of if you're more in your feminine or more in your masculine, it's showing you the parts that need to be loved and need to be nurtured and need to be brought into the daylight.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
And
Yeah,
so it's
but
still this dance. It's not this woo woo, sacred, full moon, blood sharing experience to be in the feminine. It really is another act of self awareness and self
yeah,
learning.
yeah, yeah. Look, um, that stuff's out there. There's people that do it. It's not my thing. I don't go out at night and howl at the moon. If that's your thing and you want to go do that, sweet, go and do it. But don't go and scream at the moon just when you're next to me. Right? Like that's all I'm saying. Right. So, but ultimately just do what's right for you, you know.
So, Christian, I lied. I have one more question for you to
Okay.
wrap it up. I was in a really beautiful conversation with someone the other day, and ironically, we were talking about fantasies, and I pointed out that, if you are going to fantasize at something, at least make it like bring in the negatives. Make sure you're aware that there will be downsides to it. And they repeated back to me that, the downside was, what if they're not capable of the growth? What if they're not capable of the conversations and the growth and the journey? And I think that's something that is so prevalent in something like, and we'll talk about a bit about quality relationships in a minute, and, attending workshops. It's like, well, what if I can't answer the questions? What if I can't, exactly that? What if I'm not capable of the growth? It's a genuine fear.
Bullshit.
What was that? Sorry, I
Um,
didn't hear you.
bullshit. The purpose of life is to grow. Um, it's evolution. Everyone has been consistently growing in areas of their life, whether they recognize it or not, is a different story. But uh, thinking that or believing that you can't answer the questions or you're incapable of growth, I just uh, I'm searching for a part of me that could believe it's true, and I can't find it because we're here to grow. Look at nature. Things in nature are either growing or dying. Nothing's stagnating. But even when things are dying, something new is growing. So I remember having a chat with a good friend of mine, Justin,
I
when
was
when we
wondering if his name would get mentioned.
when we were talking about this and years ago. We're going, okay, so let's say that there's a river, and when the river is flowing, it's growing. Okay, there's an ecosystem that lives within the river. Now let's say that the river stops and the water is now just pooling and it's still. Now, still water is let's say still water is dead water because maybe some of the ecosystem starts to die. But then you have algae that starts growing on the still water. So is it dying or is it growing? We actually can't have one without the other. To grow into something new, if we're looking at the personal development side of it, to grow into something new, then probably another part of you has to die because both can't exist at the same time. Like they can exist simultaneously. I think in the podcast that I was listening to yesterday, John actually talks about that. Um, we are literally like sort of not rebirthing, but we are recreating and killing ourselves
The way that
instantaneously.
he challenged Aubrey at
Yeah,
that exact point, he's like, "You're living and dying," and Aubrey's like, "Yeah, I know." And then John was like, "Well, so this is the thing," and Aubrey's like, you can see his brain is like,
yeah,
"No."
yeah, yeah. So, and even if we look at it through the lens of relationships, to develop your relationship, and it might be the communication, how you get along, how you navigate challenges, something of the old way needs to die, right? Like, so, and my personal experience is even when people like, because I've had people that have said I won't be able to answer the questions, or I don't think I'll be able to think with, think through things, or whatever it may be. I think half of that comes down to the coach. But I've had someone in one of my events with a legitimate brain injury that affected, I can't recall exactly what part of the brain, uh, but they still managed to answer all of the questions. Like, it's maybe the bigger issue is people have an expectation on themselves that they think they need to be further along or better, or they think they're not in the right place. Uh, but you're always in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. I think the other thing that's important is that something that's been really real for me and a real realization is that if you can think it and you even have a curiosity that something in your life could be a different way, in this case, situations, you're sick of having dead end situations or finding the same challenges in relationships, or you think you might not even find your person. If that's a story that is taking up brain space and time and you are constantly thinking about it, why not invest in something that can change it?
Yeah.
So that the outcome can be what it is and you can start thinking about something else or doing something meaningful with that instead of, looping the same story and thinking you're unworthy or unlovable or whatever the story might be, that something's
Yeah.
wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, look, I've there's nothing wrong with you, with anyone listening. Uh, I've had people sit opposite me so many times that thought there was something wrong with them, or their situation was fucked. And every time they've found out that what they were believing wasn't the full version of the truth. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, if those questions are coming up, they're coming up for a reason, and it's because it's time to look at them. That's
That's what I'm
that's
saying. That's what I mean. Like if those questions are looping there, that almost that thought of self-doubt or the thought that you're not capable to, grow in that direction or those sorts of things, it's almost that defense mechanism or another story coming in going, no, 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 you don't deserve that. Don't look into that. That's not going to work for you.
yeah.
In the wide words of Christian, bullshit.
Yeah. Look, it's coming up for a reason. And until you do something about it, it'll keep coming up. And
Yeah.
it's coming up because it wants you to do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I believe.
Christian, do you want to talk about quality relationships at all, or should we leave it at that? And then what do you want to do?
Oh, look, we've done a lot of talking. I'm happy to share what we do at Quality Relationships and some of the things we have coming up.
I guess the whole reason I asked you on the podcast, Christian, is because Christian's coming to Adelaide in a couple of weeks to run an event, and I think it's a highly beneficial and I mean, I've worked with Christian through a couple of my things, and Christian has supported me through some of my challenges in the last 12 months, so I can speak to his work, obviously. But yeah, you have an event coming up, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you.
Sweet. Yeah, well, March, we're confirming the dates. We did have dates booked in, but they
But
are,
life happened.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it will be March. Planning to have the dates confirmed tomorrow.
Okay.
So it was currently the 14th and 15th. I'm talking about empowered relationships.
Mhm.
But yeah, dates will be confirmed, all being well, tomorrow. It will be a Saturday and Sunday. It is a 2-day event.
What do we do at this
Over
event?
what do we do? I get to have lots of fun. No, so uh, over the 2 days, it's really building the foundation of the relationship that you have with yourself. That is the largest focus. So that is getting clear on who you are as an individual, the value that you bring. So a lot of that self-doubt, maybe not feeling enough. I know from firsthand experience, there have been times in my life where I felt enough outside of relationships, but then all of a sudden, when I've been in a relationship, some of those questions have snuck back in. So we have processes and tools to take people on a journey to expand their mind and open their heart and see themselves in ways that you could only experience probably in a few places on the planet. And
And
then
Adelaide is one of them.
Adelaide is one of them. Then on the second day, we have lots of fun where we begin exploring masculine and feminine energy in way more in depth. That is a good laugh because men and women are different. How we get into relationships is different, what we want from them. And yeah, generally there's just a lot of acknowledging and laughing at some of the things that happen in relationships, especially communication. And people generally walk away going, "Shit, you've made sense of the things that I I know are true, but no one's ever been able to communicate it in a way that has made sense." And yeah, we teach some cool processes to enhance communication and dissolve resentments because uh, at the end of the day, it's not actually about the relationship you have with other people, but every time I've ran the event, uh, I I can be I can be super super nice and kind, but equally I can be a pit bull, and sometimes when people are refusing to love themselves, no one gets out of that event without fully appreciating and acknowledging and loving themselves. So that is my guarantee that you will leave that event with a uh, perspective on yourself that can never be undone.
I will stand to testament to that as well. So you don't just have a coach on here going, I know my shit, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I wholeheartedly back Christian in what he just said.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So, I mean, if anyone has any questions about the event, shoot Christian a message. I'll put his stuff in the show notes. I have said to Christian that, well, I think you've said, if you have any questions about the event, that, you can jump on a quick call with Christian to sort of, I guess, understand if there is something that you can get out of it, if it is the right situation. This event isn't targeted at people in relationships or not in relationships. It really is for people looking to deepen their quality relationships.
Yeah, yeah. Look, you can uh, head over to www.qualityrelationships.com.au and you'll find a Empowered Relationships tab. So click on that. That will have information on the event. Again, I will update the dates when they're confirmed. Social media, just message me, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, uh, get my details from Mel. Yeah, if you want to have a chat, they're yeah more than happy to help people figure out if it's the right event for them. And like that's actually equally important for uh, us and the people that attend as well. That if it's not the event for you, let me point you in the direction
Of
of
what
someone,
is.
yeah, who can help. Our network is quite significant, and we
Huge.
know lots of people. So yeah, if it's not, then let us shoot to someone that can help.
Yeah. Amazing. Christian, do you have any final words?
Oh no, I think um, I've said this a few times, but I think that the most important thing, that my message uh, is just know that you've never not been loved, and live like you matter, because you do.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think again, Christian, you saying that you've always been loved. I also don't think people have experienced the level of love in which you are able to show them. And so if that is also something that you have a question about, is fully experiencing that, what did we say? There's human love and then unconditional love. If you really want to know what unconditional love feels like, then get in the room.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christian.
You're welcome.